the poorest states of United States. Number 10. Georgia. This top starts with Georgia, a state with a per capita GDP of only $58,890. And according to the United States Census Bureau, 14.11% of its residents live in poverty, which is a poverty level similar to Turkey. In Georgia, labor rights are scarce. 84% of unemployed people in Georgia don't receive any unemployment insurance, and less than 4,000 people receive any kind of welfare. In the city of Albany, 1/3 of the 34,000 inhabitants in the metropolitan area live below the poverty line. Number 9. Tennessee. Tennessee has a per capita GDP of $56,450, and 14.36% of its population lives below the poverty line, a poverty rate similar to Cyprus. Of course, being poor isn't the same in one country as in another. But this is to give you an idea of the magnitude of the problem and how governments perceive it. In Tennessee, 1/4 of all its children are poor, and 1/3 rely on food stamps. Plus, nearly half of pregnant women in the state don't receive adequate prenatal care. One of the causes of poverty is job cuts in the public sector. Number 8. Oklahoma. It has a per capita GDP of $52,400, and 15% of its population is classified as poor. Here, African Americans, Native Americans, and Hispanics are twice as likely to live in poverty. 14.6% of whites are poor, while the percentage among Hispanics increases to 28.8%, and among African Americans to 29.8%. According to recent studies, 27.3% of residents lack health insurance, and the crime rate is 16% higher than in the rest of the United States. Number 7. Alabama. Alabama has a 16.13% poverty rate among its population and a per capita income of $43,880. In this state, almost 1 in 4 children lives in poverty. Besides, it's the first state in percentage of diabetic and the second state in percentage of obesity. Alabama has poor infrastructure, and the poorest 20% is taxed 10% of their income, while the richest 1% is only taxed 3.8%. This is because the state collects more in sales taxes than in property taxes. Number 6. Arkansas. Its per capita income is only $44,845, and 16.36% of its population is poor. As in the other states, there's a higher chance of being poor depending on where you come from. White residents have the lowest poverty rate at 13.7%, while 28.9% of African Americans and 26.7% of Hispanics are poor. On the other hand, the child poverty rate is 23.8%. This is because poor families tend to have more children, so in all states, the rate of poor children is higher than the overall poverty rate. Number 5. Kentucky. Kentucky has a per capita income of $44,000, and 16.67% of its population is poor. In recent years, 16.4% of households in this state were at risk of hunger. The economy in some counties has been devastated by the collapse of the coal mining industry, which employs fewer and fewer workers. Thankfully, sectors such as healthcare and education seem to be attracting some of the surplus workforce. Number 4. West Virginia. It has a per capita income of $42,336, and 17.54% of its population is poor. Like the previous position, it has traditionally relied on the mining industry to generate employment. But as jobs related to this activity decrease, poverty increases. 1 in 5 children lives below the poverty level, and 19% of tenants reported being behind on rent. Poverty is highest among African Americans, 26.9% of whom are poor. Number 3. New Mexico. New Mexico has a per capita income of $43,984, and 18.63% of its population live below the poverty line. The unemployment rate is 8.6%. And although it has an unskilled and cheap workforce, companies prefer not to invest due to training costs. It also has the highest teen birth rate in the country, with 47.5 births per 1,000 women ages 15 to 19. On the other hand, and to top it off, a study published in 2021 determined that it was the worst of the 50 states to live in. Number 2. Louisiana. Its per capita income is $57,445, and its poverty rate is 18.83%. Plus, it has an unemployment rate of 8.8%. Poverty levels are estimated to be much worse than the statistics indicate because people with household incomes above the poverty line eventually endure hardships due to the rising cost of living. To make matters worse, the state faces an epidemic of opioid addiction. As you can see, most of the poor states are in the South, and the first position is no exception. Number 1. Mississippi. This state has a per capita income of only $39,368, and 19.75% of the population lives below the poverty level. A percentage similar to Georgia, not the state, but the CAUCASUS country. At 74.5 years on average, it has the lowest life expectancy in the entire United States. The education level is low. Only 22% of residents over the age of 25 have a bachelor's degree, which is 10 percentage points lower than the U.S. average. The unemployment rate is 7%. There are few technology companies, and the rising cost of living doesn't correlate with the poor wages. Those were the poorest states in the United States. Do you know any of them? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. See you in the next video. Until next time.